Imagine working like 130 hours a week. Just picture that for a second.
I mean, I would simply collapse. That's not even a question.
Right. Like you are surviving on basically zero sleep. Your body is entirely running on fumes, maybe some caffeine, and you have exactly 5 spare minutes left in your day.
Yeah, and most people are using those 5 minutes to, pass out.
Exactly. But instead of sleeping, you use those 5 minutes to sit down at a makeshift desk, fire up a laptop, and meticulously mix and master an R&B song told from the perspective of a murdered husband watching his wife from the afterlife.
Wow, that sounds like a movie script.
It really does, but that isn't a movie script. That is the actual, unfiltered, deeply exhausting reality of today's underground music scene. And you're definitely not going to find that kind of raw desperation or, wild creativity perfectly packaged on your streaming app's homepage.
No, you certainly won't. What you're describing is a level of artistic compulsion that the mainstream industry they just don't know how to categorize it. Because when we rely on algorithms to feed us our daily soundtrack, we're essentially relying on a machine that, it only knows how to look backward.
Yeah, it's totally predictive based on the past.
Exactly. It scans your past listening history, finds the mathematical pattern of your preferences, and just serves you a perfectly sanitized copy of what you already know you like.
It's a completely closed loop. The machine says, hey, you listened to 3 pop rap songs yesterday. Here are 3 more that sound exactly the same.
Which is comforting, sure, I get it.
Yeah, it's nice for the gym. But today, we are completely bypassing that loop. We are stepping out of the algorithm and wading into the muddy, unpredictable, and honestly incredibly vibrant waters of the independent music scene.
I am so ready for this.
Welcome to a brand new deep dive, everyone. We are looking at the Spotlight roster for this May, specifically the May 2026 Independent Artist Showcase Spotlight. And the landscape of what independent artists are doing has completely shifted.
It really has.
We're cracking open this massive ecosystem of 15 wildly different artists who are operating with, and this is a quote from the source, zero industry shortcuts.
Yeah, that phrase right there, zero industry shortcuts, that is the defining characteristic of this entire ecosystem we're looking at.
No safety net at all.
None. Without major label funding, without a PR team polishing their public image, these artists have to rely on pure, raw momentum. And the sheer sonic variety we are looking at in this document is staggering. The ecosystem is just a massive collision of sounds.
Right. And I want to paint a picture of this collision for you, the listener, because it's just fascinating. In this showcase alone, you have an artist like Young Blazer One, who is laser focused on the street hustle.
Oh, yeah, pushing his project, Street Money.
Exactly, Street Money. And he's utilizing UK drill, which, if you aren't familiar with that sound, is characterized by these incredibly fast, sliding bass lines and frantic, sort of off-kilter hi-hats.
It literally makes you feel like you're constantly looking over your shoulder.
Yes, exactly that feeling. And then he is sitting right next to an artist like Mr. Lee, who is dropping pure instrumental dancehall rhythms.
Talk about a pivot.
Right. Dancehall's all about that infectious, syncopated Caribbean groove that just forces your body to move.
And then right next to them, you have Tone 123 pushing what he calls abstract noise and electronic boom bap.
Abstract noise.
Yeah, and he's sharing space with Doe Dirty Duck, who is delivering classic, unapologetic West Coast gangsta rap with tracks like Cop and Blow. It is a chaotic, democratic free-for-all of genre and expression.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay.
Because within that chaotic free-for-all, there is a very specific, incredibly powerful undercurrent that we're going to focus on today.
It's the core of what makes this showcase so vital.
Because while a lot of these artists are chasing street money or engineering the perfect club anthem, we found a distinct group of artists in this May Spotlight who are using their ungate-kept platforms to build something much heavier.
Way heavier.
They are using their music for profound social awareness, conscious storytelling, inspiration, and literal unfiltered education.
It is such a vital lens for us to look through. And I'd ask you, listening to us right now, to kind of audit your own relationship with music. When you put your headphones on during your commute or, while you're staring at a spreadsheet at work, what are you actually asking the music to do?
That's a great question.
Are you just looking for sonic wallpaper to drown out the noise of the train? Or are you looking for a narrative that fundamentally challenges how you see the world around you?
Because the artists we are exploring today are demanding that active engagement, like they aren't background music.
Not at all. They're grabbing you by the collar.
So true. And if we are talking about artists demanding your attention for the sake of education, we have to start in Kaduna, South Nigeria.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got an absolute powerhouse of a collective here called 85 SKWAD.
85 SKWAD is a phenomenal entry point into this discussion because they defy almost every modern convention of the independent music cycle, particularly when it comes to longevity.
Yeah, their timeline is wild.
According to the Showcase Spotlight, this group formed back in 2005. That is a 17-year legacy.
Let's just pause on that number for a second. 17 years. Think about the lifespan of an average music career today, especially in hip-hop.
It's, what, maybe 2 or 3 years if they're lucky?
Exactly. I mean, in 2005, YouTube had literally just been invented.
Wow. Yeah, put that in perspective.
Right. And since these two founders, Wayne Dogo, who's known as Bobby Wayne, and Godwin Dunio Bityong, who goes by Gadik Madik, since they started making music, we have seen the ringtone era come and go.
Oh man, the ringtone era.
The blog era rise and fall, the SoundCloud rap explosion, and now this dominant, hyper-fast TikTok trend cycle.
And through all of those tectonic shifts in how music is consumed, these guys have remained the anchor of the hip-hop scene in the middle belt of Nigeria.
And the reason they have survived all those eras isn't because they chased the trends, right? It's because of their methodology.
Yeah, the Showcase notes that they operate on a deep, almost academic appreciation for the fundamental culture of hip-hop. They blend conscious rap with a concept they actually call street gospel.
Street gospel, I love that term.
It's so evocative. They are explicitly using the genre as a tool for storytelling, social awareness, and empowerment. Right now, they are prepping a highly anticipated debut album slated for this December, and what's really brilliant is how they are scaling their highly localized sound.
Right. They aren't trying to just do it all in a vacuum by themselves. The data shows they're collaborating with an entire roster of middle belt producers.
Yeah, names like Bizarre, Sicko, PIP Classic,
MC Jones and Kelvin SBK, all alongside G-Doc Medic's own production. But I guess my question is, what does a collaboration like that actually do to the sound? Like, why does bringing in local producers matter so much when you're trying to reach a global stage?
Oh, it matters completely because it embeds the geographic DNA directly into the audio file.
Geographic DNA. That's a great way to put it.
When you bring in a local producer like Vizar or Sicko, you aren't just getting someone to, program a generic drum loop. You are getting someone who understands the innate rhythmic cadence of the region.
The literal heartbeat of the city.
Exactly. You're getting the specific swing of the local percussion, the atmospheric sounds of the area, the regional musical heritage blended into modern software.
That makes total sense.
And when 85 SKWAD pairs that deeply localized production with a diverse roster of featured vocalists, like they have Voodoo Vibes or Salome on there, they create a sound that feels undeniably rooted in Kaduna, but it's polished enough to translate internationally.
Let's actually look at a concrete example from the data to back this up.
Right.
Their track, My Ta, which has racked up over 5,000 plays and nearly 9,500 views.
That's a huge pull for an independent track.
It really is. And the description explicitly labels it as a fusion of Hausa and rap. This is exactly what you were talking about regarding geographic DNA.
Absolutely.
Because Hausa is one of the largest spoken languages in Africa. And it has its own inherent rhythm, its own tonal rises and falls. When you take the natural poetry of the Hausa language and lock it into the 4/4 grid of a contemporary new school hip-hop beat, you are doing something incredibly complex. You are preserving an ancient cultural language by packaging it in the dominant global youth culture.
Precisely. It is literally cultural preservation happening in real time. And they apply that same deliberate structure to their thematic tracks, too.
Yeah, let's talk about the themes.
Take another song from the data, BOO Code, which also has nearly 5,000 plays. The Showcase describes this track as delving into the do's and don'ts of brotherly love. What's fascinating here is the genre they chose for the specific message. It's categorized as boom bap.
Boom bap. Man, that classic dusty, snare-heavy sound from the 90s where the drums literally sound like a heavy boom and a sharp bap.
Exactly. And boom bap is fundamentally about a steady, undeniable marching rhythm. It is structured, it is rigid in a very musical, foundational way.
Right.
So if your song is about establishing a moral and ethical framework, like a literal code of conduct for how to treat your peers in the community, What better sonic foundation to use than the structured, head-nodding march of boom bap?
Oh, that's brilliant. It reinforces the weight of the rules they're laying down.
It totally does. And they follow that up with Rat Race, a track that reminds listeners that life is a race and everyone is an athlete, grounding their motivation in harsh, everyday realities.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second because this all sounds incredibly noble.
Sure.
But we just talked about how we live in a hyper-fast 15-second attention economy.
Well,
When 85 SKWAD drops a boom bap track outlining the moral do's and don'ts of brotherly love, aren't they running a massive risk?
what do you mean?
Well, in an era where people just want a catchy hook to do a TikTok dance challenge to, how does a group sustain a legacy built purely on education and upliftment without losing the crowd? Don't they risk alienating the people who just want to escape their reality on a Friday night?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is the eternal tension in conscious music. But the answer lies in the fundamental difference between building an audience and building a community.
Okay, break that down for me.
If you build an audience based on a catchy 15-second viral dance, that audience is going to leave you the moment the next dance trend arrives. They have no loyalty to you as an artist. They have loyalty to the dopamine hit of the trend.
Wow. Yeah, that's harsh, but very true.
True conscious storytelling, on the other hand, creates a deeply invested community.
Because you are speaking to their actual lived experience.
Exactly. Look at those play counts again. 5,000 plays on My Ta, nearly 5,000 on Bureau Code. In the independent sphere, without a label forcing your song onto some massive editorial playlist, those aren't accidental clicks.
Right, nobody just stumbles into 5,000 plays without a marketing budget.
No, those are intentional, sought-out listens. That is a community returning to 85 SKWAD because the algorithmic machine cannot provide the genuine spiritual and social nourishment that they are offering. They aren't trying to catch a temporary wave. I mean, they have built their own ocean over 17 years.
Man, they provide nourishment, not just noise. That is a brilliant distinction.
Thank you.
But while 85 SKWAD is doing this localized community building work, kind of laying down the moral foundation for their peers in Nigeria, the source material also shows us artists who are taking their message to a much more macro level.
Oh, yes. The global perspective.
Let's transition to the artists in this showcase who are issuing global pleas against injustice.
We have two incredible focal points for this macro-level social awareness. Sibusiso Nene, who operates under the name Islamic Sero, hailing from Newcastle in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa.
Okay.
And alongside him, we have an Afro-hip-hop artist named Gasboy Zero, who is representing Benin. Both are utilizing their art to address massive systemic pain.
Let's start with Islamic Sero. The track we have highlighted here is called Justice and Peace, and it's pulled in over 4,500 plays and over 8,100 views.
Impressive numbers again.
Yeah, and the source description leaves absolutely no room for interpretation. The track is an explicit demand for, quote, justice, peace, and equality for both genders and race.
Very direct.
What immediately caught my eye, though, is the genre categorization. It's listed as hip-hop rap, but specifically as Christian rap.
That is a structurally fascinating choice.
Right. Because historically, if you look at the trajectory of Christian rap, it has very often been internally focused.
Yeah, it usually deals with personal salvation, theological reflections, or individual morality.
Exactly. But Islamic Sero is completely subverting that expectation. He is taking the vehicle of Christian rap and aiming it entirely outward.
He is utilizing his faith not just as a personal comfort, but as a righteous, demanding tool to advocate for universal human rights.
Yes, he is insisting that spiritual equality must translate into physical, systemic equality in the real world.
And he's highly observant of that physical world. He has another alternative rap track called Acid Lolly LH, where he breaks down how he views the societal structures around him.
He's building a whole philosophical framework.
He really is. He's pushing singles through 2025 and aiming for a full album in 2026. He is playing a very deliberate, long game here.
Which is a mindset he definitely shares with Gasboy Yeo over in Benin. Gasboy Zero provided an artist statement in the source material that serves as just a profound thesis for why this type of independent music is so critical.
What did he say?
He says, I'm an Afro-hip-hop artist focused on real emotion, discipline, and growth. And then he delivers this incredible line, I don't make music just for noise. I make music with purpose, clarity, and direction.
I don't make music just for noise. That feels like a direct indictment of the modern music industry's obsession with volume over value.
Oh, 100%. He is demanding that the listeners sit down and actually engage with the lyrical substance of his work. And when you look at this substance, it is unbelievably heavy.
It really is. The showcase highlights a track of his called Why God.
Categorized as R&B and trap soul, right?
Yeah, and it has over 3,000 plays. The notes describe it as a raw musical petition. It's a cry of anguish that explores personal tragedy, loss, illness, betrayal, but it also zooms out to touch on massive global pain.
Like war, systemic injustice, natural disaster.
Exactly. It is a desperate, open-ended question to a higher power.
To understand the full scope of his artistry, though, you have to contrast that deep lamentation with the rest of his catalog. Like, he isn't just making mournful ballads.
No, he's got range.
He has a track called To Do Controlado, which is a cloud rap and Afro-hip-hop anthem.
Oh, cloud rap is fascinating. For those unfamiliar, it's this incredibly hazy, ethereal, almost dreamlike style of hip-hop that makes the vocals feel like they are sort of floating in the room with you.
Yeah, but he pairs that ethereal, floaty sound with heavy drums and sharp bars about owning your grind.
And then he has a track called Gliz, which is straight-up dark trap.
And dark trap uses these menacing, detuned synthesizers and aggressive bass lines, right?
Exactly. The notes describe Gliz as a street-charged anthem built on power, survival, and staying 10 steps ahead in a world, quote, where only the bold make it through.
So he possesses this incredible duality, like the vulnerability to ask why God in the face of global war, but also the hardened discipline to survive the everyday street hustle.
It's a really complex portrait of an artist.
But this combination of sound and subject matter brings up a really interesting mechanical question. Here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Okay, lay it on me.
I'm looking at both Islamic Zero and Gas Boy. They are addressing heavy, deeply painful topics: global war, systemic racial equality, pleading with God in the face of natural disasters.
Yeah, huge themes.
But they are using these aggressive, club-ready, rhythm-heavy genres to do it. Trap, Afro-trap, dark trap. These genres are built on massive 808 bass drops and rattling hi-hats. Does that heavy, danceable beat help deliver the heavy message, or does it risk masking it?
That's a very fair question.
Like, are people just nodding their heads to the beat in a club and completely ignoring the lyrics about global injustice?
It's a very common concern when analyzing conscious rap, but in practice, the mechanism works quite the opposite.
I think, how so?
The heavy beat doesn't mask the pain. It is the delivery vehicle for it. Think about the physical properties of bass.
Okay, yeah.
When you are listening to a trap soul track, like, why, God, the massive 808 bass doesn't just enter your ears, it literally vibrates your chest cavity.
Oh, that's true. You feel it in your ribs.
Exactly. By pairing themes of profound lamentation with heavy, aggressive drums, the artist creates a visceral, deeply physical reaction for the listener.
Wow, it's almost like a sonic Trojan horse. The heavy bass and the trap hi-hats get your head nodding. They bypass your emotional defenses because, well, human beings are naturally wired to respond to rhythm.
Right, gets you hooked first.
And then once he's inside the gates, once your body's engaged in dancing, he drops this devastating lyrical payload about war and injustice.
A perfect analogy. He is forcing you to not just comprehend his pain intellectually, but to feel the physical heartbeat of the struggle.
The physical heartbeat of the struggle. I love that.
The bass becomes the literal weight of the injustice he's rapping about. It takes an abstract, overwhelming concept like global pain and makes it immediately, unavoidably tangible in your own body.
You literally cannot ignore the message when the bass is rattling your ribs.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. But that visceral physical reaction isn't exclusively used for macro global issues, right?
No, not at all.
Because some artists in this showcase are taking that exact same heavy sonic approach and turning the camera inward, using it to document deeply intimate psychological trauma.
That is a crucial pivot. If Gasboy's ear is pointing his microphone at the globe, the next two artists we need to examine are using their music as a microscope on their own internal scars.
Yeah, let's get into this.
We're looking at Emily Lammers, who performs as Lilith Requiem, and an artist who goes by Pretty Boyage Gaming 2020. The contrast in sound here, compared to the Afro-trap we just discussed, is stark, but the underlying drive to excavate the truth is identical.
Let's dive into Lilith Requiem first. She is based in Norman, Oklahoma, and her entire artist bio reads like a gothic poem.
It really does. She operates in this realm of dark alt cinematic soundscapes.
And the showcase notes that she builds her music from, quote, rupture, rebirth, and the soft feral places grief tries to hide.
The soft, feral places grief tries to hide, that is an astonishingly evocative description of trauma.
It's haunting.
She is heavily inspired by the massive wall of sound approach used by bands like Evanescence and Sleep Token, blending alternative metal guitars with dense atmospheric electronica.
Yeah, it's huge.
But the engine driving this massive sound is what we might call trauma alchemy. She's taking the absolute darkest parts of human experience and transmuting them under immense pressure into art.
And the prime example of this alchemy in the data is her track, Stolen from My Arms. We have to be clear here, this isn't just a pop song. It is a meticulously crafted, devastating narrative.
An audio documentary, almost.
Exactly. The source material describes it as a raw, aching anthem about a mother fighting through a system that was supposed to protect her family, but instead tore it apart.
And the visual imagery she uses to convey this story is just harrowing. The notes describe the track evoking images of broken glass, empty rooms, scattered paperwork, and the haunting echo of a child's name whispered into the dark.
Just giving me chills thinking about it.
It captures both the paralyzing devastation, forced separation, and the relentless, almost feral determination to reunite.
Now, ensuring we remain entirely impartial about the real-world politics of these systems, because our job is to analyze the art, not the policy, the song operates as a profound exposition of what the notes call the cold machinery of bureaucracy.
That's the perfect praise for it.
Right. It highlights how a system, regardless of why it was built or its original intent, can transform into a faceless, mechanical force that individuals find themselves helplessly crushed against. The track moves from quiet, paralyzing grief into a massive, soaring vow of resistance against that scattered paperwork.
And she wraps this entire narrative in what she calls cyber-feral aesthetics.
Okay, I have to stop you there because cyber-feral is such a wild term. How would you even define that sound?
Well, how do you hear it?
To me, it sounds like a computer malfunctioning in the middle of a dark forest.
Right.
Like nature and machine just colliding.
That's actually a highly accurate way to visualize it. It's the deliberate collision of synthetic, harsh, unfeeling electronic noises, the cyber element, which perfectly mirrors that cold machinery of bureaucracy we just mentioned,
Right.
with raw, unpolished, unpredictable human emotion, which is the feral element. Even on her instrumental tracks, like Holy Ghost, which has over 3,000 plays, she uses these haunting, almost weeping violin melodies to evoke a sense of the divine and the ghostly clashing with the electronic elements.
Which provides the most unbelievable transition into our next artist, Pretty Voyage Gaming 2020. Because if Lilith is dealing with ghosts in the system, this artist is literally writing from the perspective of one.
The thematic transition here is seamless.
But before we get to his music, we have to talk about his bio, because it is an absolute gut punch.
It is incredibly sobering. The very first line provided in his bio states, "Abandoned 15 years ago, I learned to stand on my own."
Just right off the bat, laying it all out there.
He describes his music as dark, gloomy, with its soul drawn directly from past transgressions. But the detail that truly reframes everything we know about independent artistry is his work schedule.
This is the part that blew my mind.
He states that he works 130 plus hours, leaving him very little time to do his own music career. Yet he still writes, records, mixes, and masters his own music across diverse genres like lo-fi hip-hop, boom bap, R&B, and soul.
Okay, wait, let me push back on this because I think there is a real danger here.
Danger in what way?
130 hours a week is roughly 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yeah, the math is brutal. That leaves maybe 6 hours a day for sleeping, eating, and commuting. That leaves literally zero time for creative flow, for rest, for inspiration. Doesn't this heavy romanticization of the grind actually hurt independent music?
That's a completely valid point to raise.
Like, are we as an audience just praising his suffering and his struggle to survive rather than the actual sonic quality of the music he's making? Is this toxic productivity disguised as artistic dedication?
It is a vital critique, and you are right to point out the danger of romanticizing systemic exhaustion. However, looking at the source text, I don't believe the artist is romanticizing the 130 hours. He is stating it as a harsh, unavoidable fact of his survival.
Okay, so it's not a flex, it's just reality.
Exactly. And when someone is working that many hours and still chooses to spend their precious few minutes of free time mixing a boom bap track, that music ceases to be a hobby or a career move. It becomes a necessary psychological release valve.
Wow.
The compulsion to create art outweighs the biological need for sleep.
It's a literal act of survival.
Exactly, and we see the psychological weight of this in his track, Caged Inside My Mind, which directly addresses the mental struggles and life-altering changes that resulted from being abandoned 15 years ago. It is a deep, introspective reflection on isolation.
But then we look at his other track, Sane Feelings, and the narrative perspective he chooses is just astonishing.
The perspective shift is wild.
It's an R&B and Motown track, but the story's about a wife taking her husband's life. And it is told entirely from the perspective of the past soul of the murdered husband.
Yeah, singing from the afterlife.
After being shot to death, he is watching from the afterlife as his wife receives a life sentence and is placed on death row.
It is an incredibly sophisticated, almost literary narrative choice. By writing from an omniscient supernatural viewpoint, he is able to explore massive themes of betrayal, consequence, and the ultimate permanence of death from a completely detached yet deeply intimate angle.
This brings up a massive question for me regarding both Lilith Requiem and Pretty Voyage Gaming 2020.
What's that?
Lilith calls her art a haunting you asked for. Pretty Boy is singing from the perspective of an actual ghost. Like we said, these aren't standard pop songs, they are audio documentaries of intense pain. So why the supernatural elements?
It's an aesthetic choice, but it serves a function.
Are they using these ghostly, dark alt aesthetics, the cyber-feral sounds, the perspectives from the afterlife to make the very real, waking nightmare of the legal system and childhood abandonment easier for the audience to digest? Is the fantasy just a spoonful of sugar to help the trauma go down?
The spoonful of sugar theory makes sense on the surface, but the psychological mechanism at play here is much deeper. It isn't just about making it palatable for the listener. It is about creating a safe psychological container. Yeah. When you wrap profound, overwhelming trauma, like the cold bureaucracy of family separation or the deep psychological scars of being abandoned for 15 years, when you wrap that in the language of gothic rock, atmospheric electronica, or supernatural R&B, you create an artistic distance. The haunting violins and the ghostly perspectives act as a buffer. They allow both the artist and the listener to walk into the darkest rooms of the human experience, to look the trauma directly in the eye, without being immediately destroyed by the raw, unfiltered reality of it.
That's incredibly profound.
The aesthetic provides a safe space to process the pain while honoring the unbreakable human spirit that survived it.
That makes so much sense. The supernatural element isn't hiding the truth. It's a shield that allows you to safely observe the truth without looking directly into the sun.
Beautifully put.
Now, having walked through those haunted houses of systemic trauma, and having stood outside with the megaphones demanding global justice with our earlier artists, we need to examine the other side of the coin.
Because you can't survive trauma without eventually chasing the light.
Exactly. I want to look at the artists in this showcase who are actively elevating the human spirit, creating music explicitly for abundance and hustle.
This is a crucial counterbalance within the showcase. It proves the independent ecosystem isn't solely defined by struggle, it is equally defined by radical optimism. We have a robust group of artists dedicating their craft to uplift, specifically ES26, Chizzy David, King Dynasty 360, Emra Unforgettable, and MEDGORS.
Let's start with ES26, because his branding is so refreshingly deliberate. He explicitly categorizes his work as lifestyle promotion music.
Capital letters, too.
Right, but in mainstream hip-hop, lifestyle promotion almost exclusively means promoting luxury cars, designer clothes, and exclusionary wealth. ES26 is completely flipping that definition.
He's rewriting the dictionary on that one.
His stated goal is the evolution betterment of humanity and creating music for abundance.
He is decoupling the concept of abundance from pure materialism. You look at his tracks like ES26 Cold or Catch My Flow, which the notes describe as a midnight freestyle about passing the time until sunrise.
Yeah.
And the underlying current in both is always this positive, expansive mindset. He isn't bragging about what he has that you don't. He's promoting a mental framework of abundance that is available to everyone.
And we see a very similar, though incredibly youthful, ambition in an artist named Chizzy David. This kid is only 17 years old.
Which is mind-blowing.
His bio states he makes real music from life, hustle, and ambition. He is utilizing aggressive genres like battle rap on his track Indie Yomakayom and Afro Trap on Motivated Foot Chizzy David to inspire others while he personally chases greatness.
To have that level of outward-facing emotional generosity at 17 using battle rap, not to tear someone down, but to build your community up is remarkable.
It's so rare. And speaking of maturity and complex blends, we have to analyze King Dynasty 360. He might possess one of the most fascinating sonic profiles in the entire showcase.
Oh, the showcase explicitly refers to him as a sonic alchemist.
The Sonic Alchemist, yes.
Yeah, he is redefining the intersection of hip-hop, R&B, and trap. But he's doing it with an underlying pulse that nods to the golden age of Motown while flexing modern street-level grit.
To understand how he pulls that off, you really have to look at his foundation. He emerged from gospel-rooted rhythms and the introspective fire of Christian hip-hop. He weaves narratives of faith, fame, and the grind.
Which is a tough needle to thread.
It really is. The showcase describes his music as a soundtrack for the soul's hustle, a sound designed to navigate both the raw streets and sacred halls. His track Constant Jungle is categorized as gospel and Christian hip-hop, and it's described purely as spiritual motivation.
Think about the musical mechanics of blending gospel R&B with trap, right?
Break it down.
Gospel music is built on massive, soaring vocal harmonies, warm organ chords, and a feeling of communal elevation. Trap music is built on sharp, aggressive, synthesized percussion and a feeling of individual defiance.
Total opposite.
Right, so by layering those warm, communal gospel chords over relentless, defiant trap hi-hats, King Dynasty 360 is creating a literal audio representation of the soul's hustle. It is the sound of maintaining your faith while navigating an unforgiving environment.
The sound of maintaining your faith, that is incredible. And joining him in providing motivation for that environment is Miss R Unforgettable, who claims the title Voice of the Struggle.
He's bringing that real grit.
He provides gritty storytelling and motivation over Memphis rap beats. We're talking tracks like 100 or Better and We Ain't Going.
Memphis rap is vital to mention here. It has a very specific, dark, hypnotic, lo-fi bounce to it. It's music meant for late-night drives and deep contemplation.
Right.
And Mr. Unforgettable brings 15 years of experience as a CEO and producer to this, creating his custom beats from scratch to ensure the sound matches his specific motivational message.
And rounding out this group of spirit elevators is MEDGORS, a hip-hop and R&B singer who dedicates his art to pure, unadulterated gratitude.
Yes, MEDGORS.
We have data on his track, You've Been Through a Lot, which is specifically dedicated to his mother, thanking her for everything she has done in his life. It's a rap track entirely devoid of ego, dedicated solely to maternal gratitude.
Which brings us to a profound realization about this specific group of artists. If we connect this to the bigger picture...
So what does this all mean? Let's synthesize exactly what we are seeing here. Because when you turn on mainstream pop radio, hustle culture has a very rigid, toxic definition.
It really does. It means grinding yourself to the bone to acquire material wealth, usually at the expense of others.
It's about crushing the competition.
Yeah.
But for these independent artists, ES26, King Dynasty 360, Chizzy David, the hustle is framed in a completely different paradigm. It is framed as spiritual elevation.
Yes.
It's about mental endurance, the betterment of humanity, and community gratitude.
It fundamentally redefines success. And this raises an important question. How does the independent nature of these artists allow them to redefine success so radically?
That is the ultimate aha moment for me here. The ultimate luxury in music today isn't having a major label backing you. The ultimate luxury is having the absolute freedom to not care about going viral.
Precisely. If ES26 or King Dynasty 360 were signed to a major conglomerate, the A&R executives would exert immense pressure on them to produce a commercial hit that aligns with the mainstream marketable definition of hustle.
Cars, clothes, money.
Exactly. Wealth, status, luxury brands. The label needs a return on investment, so the message gets diluted to appeal to the lowest common denominator.
They water it down.
But without a label demanding that specific financial narrative, an artist like ES26 has the unencumbered freedom to dedicate his entire catalog to the betterment of humanity. A 17-year-old like Chizzy David doesn't have an executive telling him that battle rap needs to be mean and aggressive. He can use it for emotional inspiration.
That's the beauty of it.
Complete independence allows them to decouple the grind from purely financial metrics and attach it permanently to spiritual and communal growth.
They aren't trying to sell you a physical product. They are trying to offer you a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
And that realization perfectly sets the stage for our final observation of this deep dive.
Bring it all together.
Because all of these deeply conscious artists, these spiritual alchemists, these trauma documentarians, they do not exist in a pristine, quiet vacuum. They are operating inside a massive, messy, unfiltered machine.
The independent ecosystem is not a curated museum exhibit. To fulfill the full picture of the May 2026 spotlight, we have to acknowledge the context these artists live in.
Yeah, we have to look at the whole picture.
The conscious storytelling we've analyzed sits shoulder to shoulder with raw, unfiltered street narratives, high-energy party anthems, and pure sonic experimentation. But the glue holding it all together is unity, which is perfectly exemplified by a group called the Real Tribe.
The Real Tribe is described in the sources as a global, hip-hop collective built on unity, consistency, and raw talent. And they are not subtle about their core philosophy at all.
No, they are very direct.
Their track, Tribe Heavy, has over 2,400 plays, and the notes explicitly say the song is about telling the world we even more deadly and heavy together. They have another track, Tribe She, which is a gritty banger about being solid together and progressing. It is the literal audio embodiment of collective power.
But right next to that collective unity,
Sure.
right next to 85 Squad's educational mandate and Lilith Requiem's weeping violins, you have the chaotic, beautiful reality of the everyman's hustle.
The day-to-day grind.
You have Doder Duck, an artist from Tacoma who is incredibly transparent about his origin story. The notes mention he dropped a debut album, had a brief dispute with his record company, left the company, changed his name, and went fully independent with a grind-hard mentality.
A classic indie story.
He isn't making ethereal cloud rap about global peace. He is dropping pure West Coast gangster rap with tracks like Cop and Blow and Get Dad Bag.
Right. He is rapping about the unapologetic, everyday street hustle. And we mentioned Young Blazer 1 at the top of the show, pushing his Street Money release, dropping melodic trap freestyles like Blazin' High. He is laser-focused on acquiring capital.
Which is valid.
And then you have Mitcher Lee acting as a sound engineer, just dropping these pure instrumental dancehall rhythms. Tracks like '03 Leon instrumentals racking up over 4,300 plays. He isn't trying to teach a lesson. He is just providing the raw sonic infrastructure for people to dance and let off steam.
And we cannot forget Tone 123 Anthony Cairns, who is over in the electronic corner doing something completely wildly different.
Oh man, Tone 123.
He's creating epic instrumentals and electronic boom bap. His track, Rockin' Day Party House, has nearly 6,500 plays just by virtue of being catchy and upbeat, while simultaneously pushing boundaries with tracks literally titled Abstract Noise, pulling in over 6,000 plays.
I have to say, I absolutely love this contrast. It is deeply validating to see it all presented together in one showcase.
Why is that?
Because true social awareness, true conscious art, doesn't exist in a sanitized environment. It exists right on the street, right alongside the party anthems, the disputes with record labels, the guys chasing the bag, and the guys making abstract noise. The artist rapping about spiritual abundance is standing on the exact same digital street corner as the artist dropping a track called Get Da Bag.
That juxtaposition is exactly what proves the vitality of this space. The independent music scene is a true, unfiltered democracy of sound. The conscious artists we focused on today, Islamic Zero demanding global justice over 808s, 85 Squad teaching the bro code over boom bap, they are powerful exactly because they are rising organically from this chaotic ecosystem.
They aren't artificial.
No, they aren't industry plants placed in a curated Deep Thoughts playlist by a marketing algorithm to seem edgy. Their voices are naturally cutting through the noise of the party and the hustle because their messages carry actual weight, and because the listeners, the community, are actively choosing to press play on their truths instead of the noise.
It is the ultimate free market of ideas and emotions. And that brings us to the end of this incredibly deep journey into the underground. We have traveled a massive conceptual distance today.
Really covered a lot of ground.
We started by exploring the 17-year educational legacy of 85 Squad in Kaduna, Nigeria, learning how they fuse ancient hustle linguistics with modern rap to preserve their culture. We felt the physical heartbeat of the struggle as Gas Boy and Islamic Store used heavy trap beats as Trojan horses to demand global justice.
Yeah.
We navigated the terrifying bureaucracy of trauma with Lilith Requiem and debated the grueling 130-hour reality of Pretty Boy Edge Gaming 2020. And finally, we witnessed King Dynasty 360 and ES26 redefine the very concept of the hustle, from material wealth to spiritual abundance.
We have covered a profound spectrum of the human experience, and as we wrap up, I want to ask you, the listener, to actively evaluate the sources of your own inspiration moving forward. When you need a voice to articulate your own unspoken struggles, or when you are looking to be genuinely uplifted, do you instinctively look to the mainstream channels that are financially incentivized to keep you comfortable? Or are you willing to do the work to dig into the underground?
That's the real challenge.
Are you willing to seek out the artists who are pouring 130-hour work weeks into a single track just to feel heard? The independent scene is murky, it requires effort to navigate, but the reward for that effort is unfiltered authenticity.
The reward is finding the pulse of actual human beings, not the smoothed-out averages of corporate focus groups. So I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day.
Leave him with something good.
We talked at the very beginning about that algorithmic machine. the one that supposedly tells you exactly what you want to hear based on your past habits. But if these incredible life-altering stories of survival, systemic justice, and spiritual abundance are sitting right here, vibrating with absolute urgency right below the surface of the mainstream algorithms, well, what other profound worldview-shifting truths are you currently missing, simply because they haven't been packaged, sanitized, and marketed to you yet? Maybe it's time to turn off the machine, step away from the algorithm, and just listen to the muddy waters. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive into the May 2026 Independent Artist Showcase with us. Keep exploring the underground.